You feel it, don't you? Like something invisible pulling strings in your life. Not loud, not obvious, just always there. In your choices, in who you chase, in how you argue, in what you fear when you're finally happy. And maybe you've said it before. Why do I always end up here? This isn't just bad luck or personality quirks. There are forces within us, ancient, deep, and quiet, that guide our steps. Patterns so old we confuse them for who we are. Stories we didn't write, but now live by. And sometimes we suffer in silence because we don't know we're not the author. Today, I want to take you into a place most people never go. Not to blame, not to fix, but to see. Because once you see them, these archetypes, the ones silently running the show, you begin to take back the pen. You stop dancing for approval you no longer need. You stop explaining your heart to people who refuse to hear it. You stop mistaking pain for passion. This video isn't a lecture. I'm not here to teach. I'm here to walk with you, like a mirror that doesn't flinch. And if you're still listening, then something in you is ready. You don't want shallow talk. You want truth, the kind that sits in your chest, not your head. So stay, because I'm about to show you 3 parts of yourself you didn't know were in charge. They aren't monsters. They aren't broken. They're just tired, misunderstood, and maybe a little scared, like you. But once you recognize them, something beautiful happens. You stop fighting yourself. You stop living in cycles. You begin finally to return home to you. And if something in your body exhaled just now, that's no accident. Before we go deeper, I want to ask you something gently. If this already feels like it's made for you, if something is stirring in your chest or softening in your belly, would you like to stay close? You can do that by subscribing, by tapping the like button, but not for algorithms, for you, so you don't miss the things your soul has been quietly waiting for. Let's begin. There's a girl. She's maybe 7, maybe 9. Small frame, big eyes. She watches the room like it's made of glass and fire. She's not playing, not laughing, just scanning, always scanning. Not for fun, for safety. She knows what silence means. She knows what footsteps down the hall can turn into. She knows how love feels 1 minute like a warm blanket, and the next like a disappearing trick. And in that room, in that life, she makes a choice. If I'm good, maybe they'll stay. If I'm needed, maybe they won't leave. If I carry it all, maybe they'll finally see me. That little girl doesn't just grow up. She becomes someone. She becomes the caretaker. The first archetype. She's the one who puts everyone else first, because it feels safer to abandon herself than to risk abandonment by others. She's magnetic, reliable. She remembers birthdays, packs extra snacks, knows how you're really feeling without you saying a word. And people love her for it, love how she makes them feel. But what they don't see is how much it costs her. The way she cries in the car because no one asks her how she's doing. The way she keeps loving people who only show up when they need something. The way she feels guilty for even thinking of choosing herself. She lives on the edge of burnout, and no one notices because she never lets them. And when someone does try to love her, she flinches. She pushes them away with a smile. I'm fine. I don't want to be a burden. But deep down, she's begging. Please, just once, let someone hold me. But the caretaker has been trained through pain that her worth is in her giving, that her value is in her sacrifice, that love is earned, not received freely. So she overextends, overcommits, overfeels. And when she breaks, she blames herself because the caretaker was never taught boundaries. She was taught survival. She was taught that love and obligation are the same thing, that to be chosen, she must disappear. And here's the part that makes your throat tighten. She doesn't know any of this. She thinks this is just who she is. Nice, helpful, always there. But it's not who she is. It's who she became. To be safe, to be loved, to make sense of a world that didn't make space for her pain. And maybe right now you're seeing your mother, or your friend, or maybe you're seeing yourself. Maybe you've said yes when everything in your body wanted to scream no. Maybe you've held everyone else together while quietly falling apart. Maybe you've believed that if you just give enough, they'll stop leaving, but they don't. Because the love you keep trying to earn is the love you were never supposed to beg for in the first place. So if you're the caretaker, I want to tell you something you were never told. Your softness is not a service. Your love is not a transaction. You don't have to disappear to deserve being kept. Breathe. That's just the first. There's another one waiting. There's a boy this time. He's maybe 12, maybe younger. He's smart, you can see it in his eyes. Always thinking, always calculating. But behind that sharpness is a question he's never been able to shake. Am I enough? He's the kind of kid who wins awards and doesn't smile, gets straight A's and goes straight to his room. His wins are quiet. His pain is quieter. And when someone praises him, he nods politely but doesn't believe them, because underneath all that striving is a wound that whispers, you have to earn your place here. And so the second archetype is born. The achiever. You know this one. Maybe too well. She's the one with the resume full of accomplishments and a heart full of emptiness. He's the one everyone thinks is so put together, but no one knows the war he fights inside. They are driven, not by dreams, but by dread. Dread of being ordinary, dread of slowing down, dread of being seen without their mask of perfection. Because to the achiever, stillness is dangerous. Rest feels like failure. And vulnerability? That's just weakness wearing perfume. They grew up in spaces where love was conditional, where being good wasn't enough, you had to be exceptional, where praise came when you succeeded, and silence came when you didn't. So they built themselves into machines, efficient, productive, respected, but so lonely, because no one knows the real them. Not fully. Even when someone gets close, the achiever doesn't let them in. They fear that if someone saw the mess, the flaws, the fears, they'd run. Or worse, they'd pity them. And achievers don't do pity. They do power, or at least they pretend to. But behind the curated image, behind the filtered smile and the LinkedIn accolades, is a child who just wanted to be loved for being alive, not for being impressive. And you can hear it in the silence after the win. The emptiness after the goal is met. The ache in their voice when they say, I should be happy, but I'm not. Because the achiever doesn't know how to stop. They don't know how to be loved without earning it. So they keep running toward promotions, toward people they have to prove themselves to, toward ideals that never let them rest. And if this is you, I know you're tired. I know you've been pretending for so long that even you forgot who you were underneath all the striving. But here's something no one ever told you. You are not your achievements. You are not your performance. You don't have to win love. You just have to be brave enough to let it find you unmasked. You've carried the world for so long, but you weren't meant to carry you like this. Let someone hold you, not because you're strong, but because you're worthy, even when you're not, especially when you're not. There's one more part of you still hiding, one more archetype that's shaped the way you love and leave and stay and silence yourself. And when you meet this last one, everything will click. There's someone standing at the edge of a room. They're not crying, not screaming. They're watching, not the way a child watches cartoons. The way someone watches for danger. They're careful with their words, careful with their truth, because they learned too early, too often, that showing yourself is how you get hurt. This is how the ghost is born. The third archetype, not because they're weak, not because they don't care, but because they cared too much too soon and no one cared back. So they disappeared, not on the outside, on the inside. They became quiet in arguments, even when they were being mistreated. They shrank in relationships, even when they wanted to scream, "See me." They learned how to make themselves small emotionally, spiritually, even physically. They apologize when they haven't done anything wrong. They say, "It's fine," when it's absolutely not. They nod in rooms where they're breaking inside, because somewhere along the way, the ghost learned that being real meant being rejected. So they became likable, agreeable, pleasant, and so alone. You might not notice the ghost at first. They blend, they adapt. They're easy to be around because they never take up too much space, but deep inside they're screaming. Not loudly, not for attention, just for freedom. Because the ghost isn't empty. They're overflowing with stories never told, love never expressed, anger never allowed. They remember things they wish they could forget, moments where they showed their heart and were told they were too much, moments where they needed someone and were told to get over it. So now they flinch at closeness, not because they don't want intimacy, but because they don't trust what comes after. They fear that being seen means being judged. They fear that being known means being left. So they ghost themselves before anyone else can. But here's the heartbreaking truth. Ghosts are often the deepest feelers. They walk through life like shadows, but inside, they're poetry. Fire, storm, and the world loses something beautiful every time one of them hides. If this is you, I want to say something softly. Not as a correction, but as a remembering. You were not too much. You were never too sensitive. You were just in rooms too small for your soul, and disappearing is not your destiny. You're not here to be half alive, half spoken, half loved. You're here to take up space, to cry when it hurts, to love loud, to risk being seen. Yes, someone might leave, but someone might stay. And not because you edited yourself for them, but because you showed up as you. Unfiltered, unmasked, unghosted. So now we've met them. The caretaker, the achiever, the ghost. Not roles, not diagnose, just old survival stories we call me. But what happens when we stop calling them identity? What happens when we remember who we were before the fear? That's where we go next. There's a moment, quiet, almost invisible, when you realize you've been living someone else's rhythm, not your truth. Not your voice, just echoes of old roles passed down through pain. You became the caretaker because no one cared for you the way you needed. So you made care your identity. You became the achiever because love was doled out in exchange for gold stars, not given freely when you were messy and human. You became the ghost because being invisible was safer than being misunderstood. And now you're here, listening not by accident, but because something in you is stirring, a knowing, a whisper. This isn't who I am, it's who I had to be. And once you hear that voice, you can't unhear it. You start to notice the choices you make on autopilot, how you say yes to avoid disappointing someone, even when you're exhausted, how you keep proving yourself to people who would never choose you unless you shine, how you edit your feelings in real time just to keep the peace. It's subtle, but it's everywhere. You begin to see that your whole life, your habits, your patterns, your relationships was built around staying safe, not being seen. But the cost of safety is you, your joy, your voice, your boundaries, your aliveness. And the hardest part, the world rewards you for it. They love the caretaker when she makes their life easier. They admire the achiever when he never says he's tired. They accept the ghost because they never have to deal with their mess. But deep down, you know it's time to come back to yourself, not the curated self, not the self you perform, the you who doesn't have to explain your tears, the you who laughs too loud, feels too deep, and walks away when your peace costs too much, the you who existed before the roles. And it's scary, because letting go of the archetypes means losing the protection they gave you. It means disappointing people who loved the version of you that served them. It means facing the grief of all the years you abandoned yourself just to be accepted. But on the other side is freedom, the kind of freedom that isn't loud or flashy. It's the kind that lets you exhale. It's the kind that lets you love without performing. It's the kind that lets you rest. And maybe for the first time in your life, that word doesn't sound lazy. It sounds holy. You begin to ask different questions, not what do they need from me, but what do I need today? Not how can I be enough, but who told me I wasn't already? Not How do I stay invisible so I'm not rejected? But what if the right people can't find me until I'm visible? You start to choose you, not in a selfish way, in a sacred way. And this is where the shift begins. Not from force, but from love. There's no explosion when it happens, no dramatic breakthrough, no soundtrack swells, just a quiet moment maybe while washing dishes, or staring at the ceiling at 2 in the morning when you realize you're not angry anymore. Not scared, just ready to stop living like your needs are negotiable, ready to stop waiting for someone to give you permission to be whole, ready to stop performing identities you never actually chose. And you notice it in the little things first. You say no without justifying it. You rest without guilt. You cry and don't apologize after. You stop over-explaining yourself to people committed to misunderstanding you. You pause before you people, please, and ask, what part of me feels unsafe right now? And suddenly, healing isn't a mountain you're climbing. It's a room you walk into. A room that was always there, waiting behind the noise, behind the pretending, behind the layers you wore like armor. And inside that room, there's you, the real you, unrushed, undone, unafraid. You realize that the caretaker doesn't have to vanish. She just needs boundaries. She just needs to know that she can love people and love herself at the same time. That choosing herself isn't abandonment, it's belonging. You realize the achiever doesn't have to stop dreaming. He just doesn't have to tie his worth to what he does. He can rest, fail, start again, and he's still enough. And the ghost? They don't have to shout to exist. They just have to return to their body, to their truth, to the sound of their own name spoken with softness. Because here's the thing, you don't need to destroy the archetypes. You just need to reclaim the parts of you they silenced. The child who wanted to be held, the teen who wanted to scream, the adult who still wonders if they're too much or not enough. You bring them all home. You let them cry. You let them speak. You let them stop performing and start belonging, not to others, to themselves. And when you do this, you break the cycle, because suddenly, you're not chasing unavailable love. You're not proving your worth in every room. You're not ghosting your needs just to keep the peace. You become someone who speaks up gently, who walks away honestly, who stays present bravely. And people around you start to feel it. The shift, the softness, the power. They say, you've changed. And you smile, because what they really mean is, you finally came home, somewhere deep in your body. Something exhales. You didn't even know you'd been holding your breath this long. For years, maybe decades, you walked through life wearing shoes that didn't fit, smiling when you wanted to scream, clapping for others while starving for applause of your own. And no one knew, not really, because you were so good at hiding it even from yourself. You told yourself, it's not that bad. You told yourself, others have it worse. You told yourself, if I just try a little harder, but trying harder was never the answer, because you weren't broken. You were just built in an environment that taught you love was something to earn. That selflessness was noble, even when it killed your joy. That silence was maturity, even when it crushed your voice. That success was the medicine, even when it numbed your soul. And slowly, you stopped asking for what you needed. You became the strong one, the dependable one, the invisible one. But inside, you missed you, the soft you, the messy you, the you who didn't have to be everything for everyone. And now, right now, you're remembering that your worth is not a resume, that your boundaries are not cruelty, that your feelings are not an inconvenience. You're remembering that you're allowed to want, that you're allowed to leave, that you're allowed to take up space without apology. You're not an archetype. You're not a survival pattern. You are breath and blood and memory. You are tenderness and wildfire and truth. And yes, those parts of you might have been hidden behind the caretaker's smile, the achiever's mask, the ghost's quiet steps, but they never left. They've just been waiting for this, for you. And now, a new question rises in you. What kind of life could I create if I was no longer performing? Not a perfect life, a real one, with honest relationships, with rest that doesn't come with guilt, with laughter that doesn't feel borrowed, with presence that doesn't need permission. You don't need to go back and fix everything. You just need to come back to yourself. Let the archetypes go home. Let the masks drop. Let the real you speak softly, bravely, without explanation. This is not the end of your story. This is where it begins. Welcome back.